Hi, this is Nancy Kuykendall, and welcome to Author Life. Today is an author spotlight and featured author event with Joanne DiMauro, and we're going to talk about her book, her and her book. Her book's title is What Remains is Love: My Journey of Losing My Brother and Healing Through Grief, which was published in 2026. And excerpts of this book were published in Kent State's literary journal, The Listening Eye magazine. So we are going to let Joanne tell us all about that and her background. And I will say, Joanne and I don't know each other. We've only met basically right now. We know each other only through the website platform that we both are on, which graciously has meetings every week, office hours, where authors can see each other and learn things from the team. Tertulia website is the name, from the Tertulia team. And so we kind of get acquainted with each other through the screen. And so I would like to share Joanne today with her book. And I'm going to just let you start, Joanne, with whatever you would like to tell us about yourself and your background.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks, Nancy, for having me on this. Really, it's a pleasure to be here. Um, this is my first published book, and I'm a new published author. And I grew up in Maine, beautiful state of Maine. And
Very.
my husband and I, of 24 years, we now live in New York City. I'm an ocean lover. We try to get away to the beach whenever possible. So. That's something we do for fun. I moved to New York City 40 years ago to pursue a career in dance. And I did work as a professional dancer. In that, I was a Bob Fosse dancer. I did his first national tour of Sweet Charity. I was a Radio City Music Hall Rockette, and then I went on to do film and television. And what happened is the performing arts led me to the healing arts. I was really always fascinated with natural health and healing modalities, so I explored a lot of studying there. I got certified in many different areas in the natural health and healing. I acquired my medical fitness training, health coaching, Reiki certification. I went on to become a grief educator certified, and I also studied homeopathy and herbalism. And what I did was I developed a company, my own company, and for the last 28 years, I spent a lot of time giving wellness lectures to businesses and organizations. I offered nutritional counseling to individuals and also to groups, private coaching, detox, and cooking classes, and private personal fitness training. And I started writing then. I wrote a series of um, small ebooks, audio, and I recorded them, audio ebooks about healthy living, tips for healthy living, and I wrote for various wellness sites and magazines. Um, and then what happened was in 2018, my younger brother got diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is a form of brain cancer, and he passed away in 2022. And I just found myself just needing to write. It was a form of healing that I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd just start writing. I'd have to get up and I just kept writing. I got involved in a writers group, 20 or so people, and they encouraged me to keep writing. And then I found David Kessel, who's a grief expert. He had a course program called Writing Through Grief and Trauma, and I took that with him. And so with the writing groups, it really encouraged me to keep going. And I ultimately, I completed it and I wrote my grief memoir. And
Yes.
so yeah, I released it. It's published this year. And also what happened is in writing that, I found myself feeling, I went on to get grief certified, grief educator certified, because I felt like this was my journey, and I really felt like I could help other people journey through their own losses. And I feel like as a culture, as a society, we're grief illiterate, death phobic, and nobody wants to talk about it. And I think my own experience of going through it, I realized how important it is to feel grief, to have your grief, have it witnessed.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I'm passionate now about writing about raising grief literacy. So that's my focus right now. Actually, not. My focus right now is I'm a little bit of a diversion. I'm writing my second memoir. My working title is Behind the Kicks, My Untold Story of the Rockettes. So it's fun. It's
Very interesting.
yeah, it's kind of like my Rocky story, coming to New York City, like pursuing a dream and the trials and tribulations of trying to make it in New York City. It was, fun and daunting at the same time.
Yes.
So and it actually just was the 100th year anniversary of the Rockettes. So I'm
Wow.
deep involved in writing this, hoping I'll get it finished by this year, the end of the year. And but I also have another, book that I want to write because I'm working as a grief educator. I was working with somebody the other day, and he was saying, I just wish there was like a list of things for me to do. His partner is dying, things for me to do, and I just thought that's it. I want to create a grief resource guidebook for people. I think there's a gap between grief support and the education and the resources that are out there. So in the
Mhm.
meantime, I'm blogging about it. I'm writing little, articles on Substack and posting them on my website, um, as I'm compiling this material to create another book, a resource book. But yeah, I'm very passionate about helping people get ahead of, the game,
Right.
not wait until somebody, near and dear to us dies, and then we're just swamped and we're overwhelmed. And so there's so many losses that happen in our life. And
Right.
I think that's what I learned in my own grief process of writing my book. I felt like all this other stuff got uncovered and surfaced about my own repression, my own losses, my own things that needed to come to the surface. And I always say that my brother got sick so I could get well.
Mhm.
And also in my book, I explore other cultures. I had gone to the Amazon, and we met with a tribe, and it was interesting because we were sitting around in this sort of a hut, and there was looked like a sarcophagus in the corner, and through translation we asked what that was, and they said, oh, that's their grandfather. They keep their bodies right there in the hut with them because they feel that they've passed on, but they're still, their energy is there, and they include them in all kinds of communal ceremonies and dream
Mhm.
time. Just thought, wow. I mean, it's just culturally how,
Mhm.
we bury people and we, cremate them, and the
Mhm.
ashes of grandpa are on the mantelpiece, but, you know,
We might not do what they do. It
we
is
don't,
interesting because we in our culture think we are everything, you know.
yeah,
Everybody's like us when they're not. There's so many other cultures out there and they all have their own way, you know, and they might be different, but in some ways they'd be similar. The reasons are similar. So
yeah.
you have quite a background and a lot of things you could write about, you know, but then
Mhm.
writing your personal story about the grief, that's something that I think can reach everyone because we've all, like you said, we've all lost somebody.
Mhm.
And at least most of us have, and if you haven't yet, you probably will. You know, we lose parents and siblings and children and pets and all kinds of things. And I once wrote a little story about someone who loses a pet, even if they have no family at all, and that is their family. That's just as
Mhm.
big a grief to them as if they lost a human family member. And grief
Absolutely.
is grief,
It
and
is. Right.
so it's something that, you know, maybe people don't always talk about, and maybe they
Right.
don't experience exactly the same or express
Mhm.
it exactly the same, but still we have to go through it.
Right.
So it sounds
Yes.
very interesting. And then in your Rockettes book too, because you have quite a background there with that. So I
Yes.
guess you have inspiration from different angles. You have your background, your work, and your dancing, and you
Hmm.
have your experience with grief that you can share. That was an inspiration to you to write.
Yes.
And then helping, you know, you're sharing what helped you and what might help others.
Exactly.
So
I feel like, my hope is that my book will help others navigate through their own grief journeys. And like you said, everybody's grief is different. We all grieve in a different way, but there's a lot of, sort of similarities.
right.
you can identify with like, oh, I felt that way too. Oh, I that's recurring for me too. Oh, that's normal.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't know. I mean, we know so much about birthing, but we don't know anything about
True.
dying or death. Everybody, it's not like we're less afraid when people, I think, when go to have birth, they're probably frightened, but there's so much information out there about it. Like this is what to expect when you're expecting, so to speak.
All
And
right.
but where there's not a lot of, people don't know what to expect when we're grieving or dying because it's so foreign, we don't want to talk about it. And I
Mhm.
just feel like I want to help change that in our culture.
And I think that people might not realize the emotions they would have. Like I know for me at deaths, I often suddenly would feel guilt like it was my fault somehow. Even as a child,
Absolutely.
when my pet hamster died, I was just
Mhm.
grief-stricken that it was my fault that I didn't take
Yes.
care of him well enough. And
Right.
my dad, he was a pediatrician, and he assured me after looking over my little hamster that he probably died of a stroke or heart attack because they only lived like 2 years. I was just positive it was my fault. And I felt the same
Sure.
way over my mother's death. I felt some guilt. And that
Hmm.
she had cancer. I didn't give her cancer, but it's
Right.
it's funny the feelings that might come up in you and where they might stem from,
Sure.
why you would feel that way. So, there's a lot of feelings people would have, guilt or otherwise, that just might
Hmm.
surface. Like you said, other things surface from the past or from other things that you weren't
Yeah.
aware of.
Right.
So I could see how it could be helpful information, you know,
Hmm.
and you've done a lot with it already. So
Yes, and also
sharing your
just the
book.
fact that sibling loss is something that doesn't really
Mm.
get recognized or addressed so much in our culture. And it's really probably one of the longest relationships that we will ever have in our life is with our sibling. But most of the attention is given to a spouse or the parents or the children, and siblings are kind of left to, you know, wander through the grief on their own and figure it
Mhm.
out. So,
That's a good
um,
point. I think I would agree with that. And
mhm,
having had that experience too, it's not talked about as much as the others,
right.
and you're right. I knew my brother longer than anybody except my parents, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole
And,
nother.
and they say that siblings, we're the closest in DNA because
Mm,
we get it, from our parents, but we have, so not that that makes any difference, but yeah, I would think, we grieve in a different way. So,
right. Different memories and parents
hmm,
maybe and that kind of thing,
yeah.
different experiences. So we know the things that inspire you and what might be coming next for you.
Mhm.
And I want to show your website here now. We're going to try this. It's not always my skill. Do you see it?
Yes.
Oh boy, I hope other people see it
Okay.
too. I see it. So this is Joanne's website, and you can see right here, her book's on the front, but here is her book again. And you can see the buy now button. It's available at Amazon, and name some of the places you can find your book, Joanne.
Yes, it's pretty much in all the book selling sites online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, thrift books, Walmart, you name
Mhm.
it, you
Okay.
can find it. So
Okay. Yeah, it's not hard to find if somebody wants to look, and they can go right here through your website to get
yes,
it.
if you
And
click the
then,
buy, I was gonna say the buy now button, there's a drop down menu that has
right.
all the sites where you could buy it, purchase it.
And okay, we saw it on the homepage, and there's your ocean that you love.
Yeah.
And Joanne has an about page that tells you some of what she just told you. And you can always sign up for her newsletter and mailing list because she does have a blog here.
Hmm.
And I read some of these, and they go along with your book. You know, I didn't read this one yet. Grief Brain. That one sounds interesting. So you can always follow her that way. She
Hmm.
has tips and tools. Oh, you want to talk a little bit about these videos?
Yes, sometimes I'm guilty of it too. I don't necessarily always want to read a whole story. And so I found that I was just doing short little quick videos that were informational, like giving information, 90-second videos and posting them on YouTube and TikTok and on my website
Mhm.
to, get the information out there, educate people that way. Um, yeah, so
Or
and I'm
just little
also
bites.
writing on, yeah, just little bites like
Mhm.
that. Writing on Substack as well, which I also
Okay.
will post on my blog.
Okay.
So,
And oh, it's always nice if we have some reviews because it's helpful to other readers to know, to
mm,
readers to know what other readers found in a book and what might help them too. And I think, oh yes,
I
some your life in photos.
trying to inspire some people for my next book.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is Joanne's website. Now, it's under joannedimaro.com. So
Hmm.
just her name.com. You can find it that way. And there's a lot in there. So be sure to look her up and you can find more. So I'm going to stop the screen there, stop sharing, and go back to us. So we talked about the stores and the places you can find it. Do you do in your area, or have you done any kind of face-to-face sales like book booths or
I haven't
conferences or
yet.
that kind of thing there? I don't know how it works
I
there.
haven't yet, but looking into that. I just published my book in March, so I
Right.
definitely would love to do that. And I'm from Maine, so I when I go back up, we spend time there in the summer. I'll hopefully go up there, and I'd love to do some book signing or maybe a talk back circle. I love to
Mhm.
get the conversation going around grief and education. So using the book sort of as my calling card to help
Yeah.
spread the word and raise grief literacy. But yeah, definitely, I'm open to that. I did do a podcast, a parenting podcast, so which was interesting. It's not something you'd normally talk about on a parenting podcast, but that was a lot of fun.
Maybe parents that need to help their children with grief
Absolutely.
over the death of a sibling or something,
Yes,
or
right, right.
father or mother.
Mm-hmm.
It's uh it's just different for everyone and different ages would process it differently.
Right, right. Yeah.
So years ago, well, my background, I was a piano teacher, music teacher, and my husband and I are musicians. And I was teaching for 30 years, and I had these two sisters that were 12 and 13 at the time. And their mother became very ill very quickly by some rare, crazy virus she picked up at Disneyland. When the
Mm.
family went there, within 6 weeks, she was gone. And it was a horrific story of how they just had to keep cutting off body parts to save her. But
Boy.
anyway, so these young girls came to my studio still. Their dad would bring them. And it was interesting interacting with them. I'd known them for quite a long time, so I felt real comfortable with them. But just some of the things they would say and some of the things we would do sometimes before their lesson, just kind of interacting about their grief. And it was a very interesting experience to kind of go through that with them because I knew their mother pretty well and
Mm-hmm.
the family, and they were only 12 and 13, and it was interesting to hear what they would say. And their
Yes,
dad was their dad. I mean, he was the husband, so it was different for him.
right. Yeah, that's beautiful. That you created sort of that space for them to be able
Well,
to.
it was very touching and very interesting situation for me to
Mm-hmm.
just for one little story. The dad brought the older girl in one day and he said, "Oh, I got her here, but she just came straight from swimming. We haven't combed her hair out or anything. Her hair was long and it was a complete mess, knotted mess." And I just said, "Katie, would you like me to comb your hair out before we do piano?" She goes, "Yes." So I just took her back to my room, my husband and mine's room, and I found a nice clean comb and brush and combed out her hair. And it was just so meaningful to me. And I think it meant something to her because she didn't have her mother. And her
Oh,
dad wasn't used to fixing girls' hair, you know.
yeah.
He was just trying to get her to her piano lesson.
Yeah.
So those little moments stick with me. She's married and has children now, but
Mm,
it was different for each of them and different for their father. It was three different people and different
sure.
ages. And
Right.
so that was an interesting cross with grief that wasn't my own, except that I knew their
Mhm.
mother.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sure, you could run into a whole lot of different situations when your book is, like you said, it's just newly published. And as it becomes made more aware of, you might find places where what you can teach would be very valuable.
Hmm. Yes, yes, I think so. And also I talk a lot about family, and like you're saying, you kind of tapped into that, the father having a different experience than his daughters. It's the same, I wrote a lot about that in my book. I have two siblings that are still alive, and our experience, and my mother was alive when my brother died. So, the dynamics of family and how we each process grief in a different way and what that comes up and how that affects us interacting with each other. It's, families all go through this and
Mm-hmm.
how, right. It's just, it's complicated, but so it was good to cathartic for me to write about it. And I just feel like I can help other people, just through my story, people will identify like, oh, I have that same kind of family. We do that same thing. Like my
Mm-hmm.
sister is what's considered a practical griever. She, is grieving in the moment, but then she doesn't carry it with her. So, it's different for everybody. And
It is,
there's no right or wrong way.
right. And what I found interesting in my family too is how we remember that person. We all remember that person differently. We had
Exactly.
different experiences just
Right.
because of our ages, maybe, like with my mom, different ages and whatever the experiences were.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit complicated,
Definitely
topic.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for letting us hear about your book and you and what you're going to do with it and your new books coming up.
Yes. Yes.
And when do you hope to have the Rockettes book out?
Well, I'm hoping that I will get it out by the end of the year. So fingers crossed.
Time will tell.
I will tell. Right.
It's okay if it's next year. Time will tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll look for that. And again, everyone, you can find JoanneDiMauro.com. You can find her at JoanneDiMauro.com and her book everywhere. So thank you, Joanne, for sharing. And I hope we get to talk again sometime. Now, what I didn't say in the beginning, or did I? I think I did. We're both Tertulia authors. And
Hmm.
that's where we came across each other.
Right.
So that's how we met in
Hmm.
this way. So it's been a joy to meet you and to talk
Same
with
here.
you. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Bye bye.
Bye now.